Now, who better to talk about this movie with than my imaginary friend? Come out here, G. Guys, this is my imaginary friend, Gerald. I've never had an imaginary friend. So I just got back from watching If, the newest movie directed by John Krasinski. And here's my honest and spoiler review. So if you have not seen the movie, click off, go watch it, come back, and let's see how close we were in terms of things. The film starts off with a family where we see a little girl interact with her mum and dad. And it's done in this really cute way with all these like handheld camera movements, and it looks really cool. We follow B, unfortunately lose her mother due to, which seems like cancer, which is kind of sad. It was a little bit emotional. And then we cut a few years later where she is now grown up and she's living with her grandma. Now we see that B is wanting to be more mature and adultness due to the fact that her dad is now going in an operation. Now her father is still trying to keep this silliness and make his little girl like smile and still be a kid, but I guess B just really wants to grow up and accept the fact that things aren't okay. Now from here, B then notices some sort of girl or something scattering around following her, so she decides to follow, only to be led up to a door with a couple of voices behind it. Eventually, she is then scared off by a neighbor. Now we do see that B is still really eager to see who's behind that door, so she follows them out. Eventually, B is introduced into our two main imaginary friend characters, which is Blue and Blossom, and it's here that we find out that Calvin is actually trying to help all these imaginary friends find new kids to make happy, as the imaginary friends will disappear if no one wants them. Calvin then takes B to an amusement park, and here is where we are introduced to all the imaginary friends that are retired in this like retirement home. It's kind of cool to see some of the designs and looks of these imaginary friends. It's very creative, very interesting, and I thought it was so cool to see this part. This part got really wacky when we are introduced to the oldest imaginary friend, which is an old bear. His character was really wholesome, kind of like your Yoda. I liked him. Together, Calvin and B start to interview all the imaginary friends to see who fits what kid and if they can help them find the new kid. Now, after realizing it doesn't work, B and Calvin come up with a new plan to help the imaginary friends reconnect with their old kids who are now grown up. Now, this, I actually so much preferred the entire film to be around this plot and center of the fact that the imaginary friends is trying to reconnect with their older kids and try to help them, I guess, get through life, which we do see here. We do see that B actually interacts with her grandmother, that she wanted to be a dancer, but she gave it all away. So then she reconnects her with her imaginary friend, which turned out to be Blossom. And it's a really wholesome moment of the grandma just, I guess, feeling like a kid again and just feeling fun again, which is so wholesome. We do get to see Blue's kid, who's this real under pressure, stressed out worker, and it's just such a wholesome moment to see, I guess, the interaction they have together in the end, and it's amazing. Honestly, that one touched my heart. Now, celebrating at the retirement home that all the imaginary friends are going to go find their old kids and reconnect with them, it's such a wholesome moment. Now, B then goes back to her grandma's house only to find out that they need to leave right now to go to the hospital as something is happening to the dad. B runs up to the room in which Calvin and the imaginary friends are staying and cries into Calvin, and then all the imaginary friends meet her in the hospital. Now we do see this real wholesome moment between B and her father in which she's like, I want to be a kid. I've made a story, you know. She's got this story to tell her dad about this girl who, you know, needs her father and stuff. And it's so sad. The tears were rolling at this part. Eventually the father is okay and all the imaginary friends disappear. Now B just thought maybe they've just gone back. So she goes back to the room and knocks on the door only for no one to show up. And for the old lady upstairs, the neighbor, to open the door, and we get the reveal that nothing was really real for her, and that Calvin was only an imaginary friend too. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I saw this twist coming from a mile away, and you kind of can picture it in the trailers if you really think, and it doesn't hit quite as hard as what I thought. Eventually, B is digging around through some old pictures, and she finds Calvin the clown, who is her imaginary friend. Bada bing, bada boom. Calvin was B's imaginary friend. She eventually goes back to the room and she tells Calvin, I need you, and he appears along with all the other imaginary friends. The film then ends there with B and her father moving back into their old house. The plot of the film, like I said, the last half an hour is what really did it for me. The first hour was a little bit lost. Now for the acting, we have a stacked cast for this film. Our human, I guess, actors, we have John Krasinski, who actually plays the father. We have Kaylee Fleming, who plays B, who absolute steals the show. Ryan Reynolds, who plays Cal. His acting was good, but unfortunately, this was one of Ryan Reynolds' weaker films. Steve Carell voices Blue, Fiona Shaw plays the grandmother, Phoebe Waller-Bridge plays Blossom, and then we are thrown a bunch of A-class actors such as Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Awkwafina, Bradley Cooper. The list just goes on with who's actually in this film. Now, the pacing of this film, it was solid. It did what it had to do. It wasn't anything special. It was slow at times, but it was also kind of good to be able to sit and take in what was going on. The pacing would have worked so much better if they had gone with that route of having the imaginary friends try to find their older kids instead of trying to reconnect with new kids. I think personally that would have made the film a lot more wholesome, a lot more emotional as well, to see, I guess, these struggling adults in the life that we have now, working, not having time to sit back and have fun. I think that would have worked better to see them reconnect with their imaginary friends. So all in all, if it's a film that, I guess, tried too hard to be something, and unfortunately that's kind of what shot it down. This film, honestly, I was expecting a lot more, especially from the trailers. It was also one of my most anticipated films of the year, and it had let me down. Like I said, that last 30% of the film really is what carried it and sold it to me. In terms of the emotion it actually displayed and the way that they were going with things, it would have been a lot better if we also got to see a lot of the imaginary friends reconnect with their old kids instead of just showing it in like some sort of montage way at the end, which is what it did. So for If, I'm unfortunately going to give this one a 6 out of 10. I was really hoping for a lot higher, but that's where we're going to sit it at. Do still go see this film though. I think if you're an adult, you may find a little bit of love from this film, but if you are a kid, you may just like it for the silliness and the funness and the looks of everything. Don't get me wrong, this film is absolutely beautiful. Some of the cinematography in this is stunning, but all in all, the film just falls short. So that is my review for If. Let me know in the comments, have you seen this film? Did you like it? What do you think of it? Am I right with the rating? Because that's what I'm giving it. That's all. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, turn on post notifications so you never miss a thing. Share around. Be kind. Love one another. And I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.